They had survived ice ages and plagues and predators that made the Thorians Lou Doctor. Yuna had not slept in orbit. While her teammates fought in the jungle below, she remained on the horizon's edge with a different mission. Colonel Sora from Earth Command had joined her, along with a team of specialists prepared to present humanity's case to the galaxy. They had been preparing for this moment since the hunt began. "We're getting 40 billion viewers now," one of the technicians reported. "Every major species is watching, even the ones who usually ignore council business." Yuna stared at the main screen showing a dozen different camera angles from the preserve. She watched Minho lead his team through the jungle with tactical precision. She watched them outsmart, outmaneuver, and defeat opponents who should have killed them easily. And she knew the galaxy was seeing the same thing. "It's time," Colonel Sora said. She was a stern woman with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "Send the request for broadcast time." The Galactic Council had regulations about interrupting official hunts, but they also had provisions for species to present contextual information. Yuna used those regulations to demand broadcast time. They could not refuse without admitting the hunt was unfair. 15 minutes later, Yuna and Colonel Sora appeared on screens across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as they prepared to speak. "My name is Dr. Yuna, xenobiologist for Earth's Deep Space Program," she began. "I want to tell you about the species you classified as prey." She brought up images on the screen behind her. Earth, beautiful and blue and covered in water. This is humanity's homeworld. To you it might look peaceful, but Earth is what we call a death world. Let me explain what that means. She showed images of Earth's animals: tigers, bears, crocodiles, sharks. These are some of the predators that shared Earth with humans. Each one could kill a human easily. They had claws, teeth, venom, armor, everything you think a predator needs. She paused. Humans killed them all anyway, not in direct combat. We were smarter. We used tools. We used fire. We used tactics. Colonel Sora took over. Humanity evolved in one of the harshest environments known to produce sapient life. Our planet has extreme temperature variations. We survived ice ages that covered continents and glaciers. We survived plagues that killed millions. We survived megafauna that made your Thorians look small. Images flashed across the screen. Woolly mammoths, saber-toothed cats, cave bears, ancient terrors from humanity's past. We did not survive by being strong, Colonel Sora continued. We survived by being persistent, by being adaptable, by working together. Let me show you what I mean. She played footage from Earth's history. Ancient humans tracking herds across vast plains. Not chasing them, but following, walking hour after hour, day after day, never stopping until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Humans are endurance predators, Yuna explained. On Earth, we can outrun almost anything over long distances. Not in a sprint, but in a marathon. We can track prey for days without rest because we evolved special cooling systems. We sweat, allowing us to regulate body temperature better than almost any other species. She showed more images. Humans throwing spears, humans using bows, humans with complex tools. We are also the best throwing species in known existence. Human shoulders and hands evolved specifically for throwing objects with deadly accuracy. We can hit targets from dozens of meters away. We turned distance itself into a weapon. Colonel Sora's expression hardened. But what truly made humans apex predators was something else. Let me show you our history. The screens filled with images of human warfare, ancient battles with swords and shields, medieval sieges, modern warfare, not glorifying it but showing the brutal efficiency of it. Humans spent 10,000 years fighting each other, Colonel Sora said flatly. We developed strategies, tactics, and weapons designed specifically to kill other humans. We are the only species that hunted itself for sport, for territory, for ideology. We perfected the art of killing because we practiced on ourselves. The images showed humanity's innovations: crossbows, cannons, airplanes, tanks, nuclear weapons. We split the atom and used it as a weapon, Colonel Sora continued. We flew to our moon and planted flags. We built machines that think and tools that can destroy cities. We did all of this while fighting among ourselves. Yuna took over again, her voice softer but no less intense. The Thorians call themselves apex predators, but they've never faced anything like Earth. Let me compare. She brought up biological data side by side. Thorian homeworld gravity, 0.85 Earth Standard. Earth trained us to be stronger. Thorian homeworld temperature range. Comfortable 20 to 30 degrees. Earth temperature range -40 to +50 degrees. We evolved to survive both extremes. More comparisons appeared. Thorian healing time from major injury. 3 weeks. Human healing time. 1 week thanks to rapid cell regeneration and immune responses developed from constant exposure to pathogens. Thorian pain tolerance moderate with high sensitivity to injury. Human pain tolerance extremely high with adrenal responses that allow us to ignore serious wounds during combat. Thorians hunt in packs of 3 to 5, Colonel Sora added. Humans developed military units of thousands coordinating across vast distances. Thorians fight with claws and teeth. Humans fight with tools that can strike from orbit. The broadcast showed footage from the preserve. Minho's team working together. Their traps. Their tactics. Their absolute refusal to give up. You classified us as prey based on our bodies, Yuna said. You looked at us and saw no claws, no armor, no obvious weapons. But you missed what makes humans dangerous. Our minds, our cooperation, our stubbornness. She looked directly into the camera. Humans bonded with wolves, the apex predators of our world, and turned them into partners. We call them dogs now. We made allies of creatures that should have been our enemies. We domesticated prey animals and created agriculture. We built cities, nations, civilizations. We did all of this while predators tried to eat us. Colonel Sora leaned forward. The Thorians have ruled for 2,000 years through strength. Humanity has existed for 200,000 years by being clever. When strength failed us, we invented tools. When tools failed us, we invented tactics. When tactics failed us, we kept trying until something worked. We never give up, Yuna said simply. That is what makes us apex predators. Not strength. Not speed. Not natural weapons. We never ever give up. The broadcast showed more footage from the preserve. 8 Thorian hunters disabled. Then 12. The humans looked exhausted but determined. You are watching 6 humans fight 20 Thorian warriors plus Warlord Grath himself, Colonel Sora said. They have minimal equipment, no weapons, and they're on an alien world. And they're winning. Not through luck. Through skill, intelligence, and human stubbornness. Yuna pulled up final images. Human settlements on different worlds. Human ships exploring deep space. Humans building, creating, thriving. You wanted to know if humans are prey or predator, Yuna said. Here's your answer. We are neither. We are human. We are the species that conquered a death world through intelligence and cooperation. We are the species that split the atom and touched the stars. We are the species that never stops trying, never stops adapting, never stops surviving. She paused, letting that sink in. The Thorians made a mistake. They assumed that because we look weak, we are weak. They forgot to ask the most important question. How did something that looks like prey survive on a world full of predators for 200,000 years? Colonel Sora smiled coldly. The answer is simple. We were never prey. We were always predators. We just hunted differently. The broadcast ended. Yuna and Colonel Sora returned to watching the preserve feeds. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The reactions were intense and divided. Some species were terrified. They called for humanity to be quarantined, contained, restricted. Others were fascinated. They wanted alliances, trade agreements, defensive pacts. Many simply watched in shock as they reassessed everything they thought they knew about humans. But the Thorians had the strongest reaction. Warlord Grath himself appeared on a secured channel, speaking directly to the human ship. I saw your broadcast, Grath said. His voice was thoughtful rather than angry. You make good points, but talking is easy. Actions matter. Your warriors have impressed me, but the hunt is not over. I have entered the preserve personally. Let us see if your humans can maintain their performance when facing a true challenge. Colonel Sora responded immediately. Warlord, this hunt has already proven our point. There is no need to continue? I disagree, Grath replied. I need to know for myself. Are humans truly apex predators? Or just clever prey with good tactics? He paused. I will know the answer before this hunt ends. The transmission cut off. Yuna watched the screens showing Minho's team. They looked tired but alert. They had survived 2 full days against incredible odds. But Grath was different. He was not just another hunter. He was the best the Thorians had ever produced. They can do this, Colonel Sora said, though her voice held doubt. I know, Yuna replied, but she was worried. Everything came down to the next 24 hours. In the preserve, Daewon received an urgent transmission on the captured equipment. His face went pale as he listened. "Captain," he said quietly, "Grath is coming. And he's—" The meeting place was a large clearing near the center of the preserve. Minho arrived first with his team, emerging from the jungle as the third day's sun climbed toward noon. Exactly 70 hours had passed since the hunt began. 2 hours remained. "You don't have to do this," Yuna said through the communicator they had salvaged. She was still aboard the horizon's edge, watching through the camera drones. "You've already proven the point." "No," Minho replied quietly. "I haven't, not yet." His team spread out around the clearing, taking defensive positions. They were exhausted. Their clothes were torn and stained with mud and blood. Jiho had a bandage around his left arm from a close call with a Thorian blade. Taeyang limped slightly from a twisted ankle. Hana had used most of their medical supplies, but their eyes were still sharp, still focused. Warlord Grath arrived exactly when he said he would. He came alone, walking into the clearing with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. His armor gleamed despite days in the jungle. His claws were clean and sharp. He carried 2 energy blades, ceremonial weapons of Thorian warriors. He was enormous, at least 9.5 feet tall, with muscles that looked like they were carved from stone. Scars covered every visible part of him, each one a story of survival and victory. Minho stood and faced him. The human captain looked tiny in comparison, barely 6 feet tall, thin from days without proper food, armed with nothing but a primitive wooden spear and his knife. "You are Captain Minho," Grath said. It was not a question. "I am. I watched your broadcast. Your doctor makes compelling arguments about human capabilities." Grath circled slowly, studying Minho like prey. "But I am not convinced by words. I need to know the truth. Are humans truly dangerous? Or did you simply get lucky against inferior warriors?" "Why does it matter?" Minho asked. "We've survived your hunt. We've defeated your warriors. What more do you need?" Grath stopped circling. "I need to know if I should fear you." "Fear?" Minho almost laughed. "You're asking the wrong question, Warlord. The question isn't whether you should fear humans. The question is why you need to fight at all." "Because I am Thorian," Grath replied simply. "We determine worth through combat. It is our way." "Then let's finish this." Grath raised his energy blades. They hummed with power, glowing a soft blue. "You may use your team. I will not call for assistance." 6 against 1? That is fair for prey challenging a predator. Minho shook his head. "No, just me. 1-on-1. That's what you want anyway." "Captain, don't," Jiho called out. But Minho had already stepped forward. The fight began without ceremony. Grath lunged with speed that seemed impossible for something so large. His blade carved through the air where Minho had been standing a second before, but Minho was already moving. He rolled to the side, using the lighter gravity to move faster than he could on Earth. His spear jabbed at Grath's leg, testing the armor. The wooden point shattered against Thorian armor plating. Grath swung again, a powerful overhead strike. Minho dodged, but the energy blade came so close it singed his hair. He threw the broken spear shaft at Grath's face, buying himself a second to create distance. "You're fast," Grath acknowledged. "Faster than I expected. But speed alone will not save you." They circled each other. Minho's mind raced. He could not match Grath's strength, could not penetrate his armor with primitive weapons, could not outlast him in direct combat. So he had to be smarter. Minho feinted left, then dove right, grabbing a handful of dirt and throwing it at Grath's eyes. The warlord blocked with his arm, but the distraction gave Minho time to reach a fallen log. He vaulted over it, putting the obstacle between them. Grath smashed through the log like it was paper. Minho kept moving, leading Grath in a winding path around the clearing. He jumped over rocks, ducked under branches, used every bit of terrain to his advantage. And slowly, methodically, he led the warlord toward the edge of the clearing where his team had set their most elaborate trap. But Grath was not stupid. He saw what Minho was doing and simply stopped following. "Clever," Grath said. "You try to use tricks because you cannot win with strength. That is not how warriors fight." "I'm not a warrior," Minho replied, breathing hard. "I'm a survivor." "There's a difference." "Is there? Warriors have rules. Survivors do whatever it takes to live." Minho pulled his knife, the only weapon he had left. It looked like a toy compared to Grath's energy blades. The warlord actually looked disappointed. "That is your final weapon?" A small blade? It's enough, Minho attacked. Not with technique or grace, but with desperate aggression. He went for Grath's joints, his eyes, the gaps in his armor. Every strike was aimed at vulnerable points that even a small knife could damage. Grath defended easily, blocking each attack with his blades or armor. But he had to defend. Minho was not fighting like a warrior. He was fighting like prey that had decided to bite back. Wild, unpredictable, relentless. A blade caught Minho's shoulder, cutting deep. Pain exploded through him, but adrenaline pushed it away. He kept attacking. Blood ran down his arm, making his grip slippery. Another strike caught his leg. Minho stumbled but did not fall. "Stay down," Grath commanded. There was no cruelty in his voice, just statement of fact. "You have fought well. You have nothing left to prove." Minho got back to his feet. His vision swam from blood loss. His leg barely supported his weight, but he raised his knife again. "Yes, I do." He attacked again, slower now, weaker. But still moving forward, Grath could have killed him. Should have killed him. But the warlord held back, confused by Minho's refusal to surrender. "Why?" Grath asked, genuinely puzzled. "You cannot win. You know this. Why continue?" "Because that's what humans do," Minho gasped. "We keep going. Even when we know we'll lose. Even when it's hopeless. We keep fighting until we can't anymore." He lunged one more time. Grath swept his legs out from under him. Minho hit the ground hard. His knife flew from his hand. Grath stood over him, blade raised for the finishing strike, and Minho smiled. "Now," he said. His entire team attacked at once. They had been waiting for this moment, for Grath to be focused completely on Minho. Jiho came from behind with a captured energy weapon. Taeyang swung a weighted vine like a whip. Hana and Daewon hit from the sides with spears. It was not honorable. It was not fair. It was a coordinated ambush on a distracted opponent. It was exactly how humans hunted. Grath spun faster than they expected, and his blade caught Jiho's weapon, destroying it. But Taeyang's vine wrapped around his arm. Hana's spear found a joint in his armor. Daewon's strike hit his knee. The warlord roared and threw them off with pure strength. But more strikes came. The humans worked together like a machine, each attack covering for the others, never giving Grath a moment to recover. Minho dragged himself to his feet and rejoined the fight. 6 humans against 1 Thorian, using every trick they knew. Every tactic they had learned, fighting not as individuals but as a pack. Grath fought magnificently. He was stronger, faster, better armed. But he was 1 fighter against 6, and the humans had spent 3 days learning how to work together perfectly. Slowly, impossibly, they wore him down. A strike to his weapon arm made him drop a blade. A tackle from Taeyang combined with Jiho's weight brought him to 1 knee. Vines tangled his legs. Strikes hit gaps in his armor. Finally, Grath fell, not knocked unconscious, not killed, but simply overwhelmed. He lay on his back with 6 humans standing over him, weapons ready. The clearing was silent except for heavy breathing. "Kill me," Grath said. There was no shame in his voice. "I lost. That is the warrior's way." Minho limped forward, blood still running from his wounds. He looked down at the warlord for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. "Get up." Grath stared at the offered hand like it was an alien object. "What?" I said. "Get up. We're not going to kill you." "But I lost. You won. The hunt is over." "Exactly. The hunt is over. We proved our point." Minho kept his hand extended. "On Earth, when we defeat an enemy, we have a choice. We can kill them or we can make them an ally. I choose ally." Slowly, Grath took Minho's hand. The human pulled with all his remaining strength, helping the massive Thorian to his feet. They stood facing each other. Predator and predator, both battered and bloody, both having given everything they had. "You did not fight with honor," Grath said. "No," Minho agreed. "I fought to win. Because for humans, survival matters more than honor. But we won and we're letting you live. Doesn't that count for something?" Grath was quiet for a long time. Around them, camera drones captured everything, broadcasting the scene to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Finally, the warlord spoke. "I understand now. Humans are not prey, but you are also not predators like us. You are something else. Something new. We're partners," Minho said. "That's what humans do best. We don't just hunt. We cooperate. We make alliances. We turn enemies into friends." He smiled despite his pain. "It's why we're dangerous. Not because we can kill, because we can work together. Grath looked at the 6 humans standing before him, exhausted, wounded but unbroken. They had survived 3 days against impossible odds. They had defeated his best warriors. They had beaten him, and they were offering mercy. The Galactic Council must hear of this, Grath said slowly. Humanity's classification must change. You are not prey. You are... He searched for the right word. You are human. That is classification enough, Minho nodded. Thank you. The second day began with rain. Heavy drops hammered through the jungle canopy, turning the ground to mud and filling the air with mist. Minho watched water stream down leaves while his team prepared to move. The rain would make tracking harder for the Thorians, but it also made the terrain more dangerous. Daewon, what's the situation? Minho asked. The communications specialist crouched over the captured Thorian equipment, listening through an earpiece. They're angry, Captain. Really angry. 17 hunters are still active. They've reorganized into 3 main groups. One is tracking us. The other 2 are trying to cut off our escape routes. They still think we're running, Jiho said. He was sharpening another wooden spear using his knife in a flat rock. They don't understand yet. What don't they understand? Hana asked while checking everyone's feet for blisters and injuries. The medic had kept the team in surprisingly good condition considering the circumstances. That we're not the ones being hunted anymore, Jiho replied. Minho studied the map that Yuna had marked with enemy positions based on Daewon's intelligence. The Thorians were moving in predictable patterns using standard tactics for cornering prey. They expected humans to be exhausted, desperate, and making mistakes by now. Instead, the humans had rested well, eaten regularly, and were growing more comfortable in the jungle environment. Taiyang had created an entire arsenal of primitive tools. Daewon had learned how to intercept and interpret Thorian communications. Yuna had identified which local plants were edible and which were toxic. They were adapting, something humans did better than almost any other species. Captain, I've been thinking, Yuna said. She pointed to a cluster of bright red flowers growing nearby. These plants are similar to earth nightshade. Extremely toxic if ingested. The Thorian biology brief mentioned they have sensitive respiratory systems. Minho understood immediately. Can you make it airborne? With the right preparation, yes. A cloud of powder that would cause severe irritation. Maybe temporary blindness. Not lethal, but very effective. Do it. Taeyang, help her. Everyone else were changing tactics. Over the next few hours, they moved to a new location that Minho had selected carefully. A narrow valley with steep sides and only 2 entrances. Perfect for an ambush. While Yuna and Taiyang prepared their toxic powder weapon, the others set traps throughout the valley. Jiho created pit traps covered with leaves and branches. The lighter gravity made it easier to dig quickly. Daewon rigged simple alarms using vines and hollow seed pods that would rattle when disturbed. Hana prepared their medical station in a sheltered alcove where they could retreat if injured. Minho marked their escape route. A steep path up the valley's southern wall that would be difficult for the larger Thorians to climb quickly. Then they waited. The Thorian hunting party arrived in the early afternoon. 5 warriors moving in formation with weapons ready. They entered the valley cautiously, but they were clearly confident. Why wouldn't they be? They were apex predators hunting prey. The first Thorian stepped into Jiho's pit trap and fell with a surprised roar. The second triggered a vine snare that released a suspended log, swinging it directly into his chest with enough force to knock him down. The remaining 3 Thorians immediately took defensive positions, scanning for threats. That was when Yuna threw her toxic powder bomb. The container shattered against a rock, releasing a cloud of fine red dust directly into the Thorians' faces. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The warriors began coughing and clawing at their eyes, their superior senses working against them as the irritant overwhelmed their respiratory systems. The human team struck while the Thorians were disabled. They did not try to match strength against strength. Instead, they used coordination, speed, and tactical superiority. Jiho took out one warrior's knee with a well-placed spear thrust. Taeyang used a length of vine like a whip, entangling another's weapon arm. Minho and Daewon worked together to bring down the third, using the terrain and their smaller size to their advantage. In less than 5 minutes, 5 more Thorian hunters were neutralized. This is working too well, Yuna said as they salvaged more equipment from the disabled Thorians. They're not adapting. They've never needed to, Minho replied. When you're always the strongest, you never learn to think creatively. He paused. How many are left, Daewin? 12 active hunters. But Captain, Warlord Grath just entered the preserve. He's brought reinforcements. That changed things. Minho had researched Grath extensively. The Warlord was not just any Thorian. He was their greatest warrior, with hundreds of successful hunts. He had fought in wars, conquered colonies, and never lost a challenge. How long until he reaches our position? 4 hours, maybe 5. He's moving fast. Minho gathered his team. They were dirty, tired, but their eyes were bright with something that might have been excitement. In 36 hours, they had gone from being hunted prey to successful predators. They had proven something to themselves. We could run, Minho said. We have enough of a lead. We could survive the remaining time, but, Jiho prompted. But that's not why we're here. We're not here to survive. We're here to prove that humans are not prey. Minho looked at each of them. Grath is coming. If we want to change how the galaxy sees humanity, we need to face him. One problem, Taeyang said. Grath is not like the others. He's smarter, faster, more experienced, and he has reinforcements. Then we use what makes us human, Yuna said quietly. We don't have to beat him in direct combat. We just have to beat him. They spent the next 3 hours preparing their most elaborate trap yet. It required using almost everything they had learned about the jungle, about Thorian tactics, and about human ingenuity. Daewin monitored Grath's approach, feeding information to the team in real time. The Warlord was moving with 6 elite warriors, tracking the humans with frightening efficiency. He had found the disabled hunters and knew exactly what he was facing now. He was no longer underestimating them. He's using the river path, Daewin reported. 20 minutes out, the team took their positions. Minho crouched behind a fallen log, watching the river through the vegetation. His heart pounded, but his hands were steady. This was it. The moment that would define how the galaxy viewed humanity. Grath appeared like a force of nature. He stood at least 9 feet tall, his armor scarred from countless battles. His eyes were intelligent and focused. The warriors with him moved with professional precision. They reached the middle of the kill zone and Minho gave the signal. Everything happened at once. Taeyang triggered a deadfall trap that dropped a massive log from above. Yuna released multiple powder bombs simultaneously, creating a choking cloud. Jiho and Hana fired stones from improvised slings with remarkable accuracy. But Grath was ready. He had anticipated an ambush. His warriors formed a protective circle, and the Warlord himself charged directly toward where Minho was hidden. This was the moment Minho had planned for. He did not try to fight. Instead, he ran. Grath pursued exactly as Minho intended. The Warlord was faster, but Minho knew the terrain. He led Grath on a winding chase through the jungle, over obstacles under low branches, through the treacherous river crossing they had identified earlier. The lighter gravity helped. Minho could jump higher, move more quickly than he could on Earth. But Grath was still gaining. Then Minho reached the cliff. He did not hesitate. He jumped, grabbing onto the rope that Taeyang had secured earlier. Minho swung across a ravine that was concealed by mist and vegetation, landing hard on the other side. Grath tried to follow and discovered too late that the ravine existed. The Warlord caught himself at the edge, his superior reflexes saving him from a deadly fall. But he was now separated from his warriors. Alone on one side of the ravine with 6 humans on the other. Minho stood at the edge, breathing hard but smiling. Behind him, his entire team emerged from cover. You're good, Warlord, Minho called across the gap. Better than your hunters, but you're still thinking like a predator. You chase. You catch. You kill. Grath snarled, his pride clearly wounded. Humans think differently, Minho continued. We plan, we adapt, we turn our weaknesses into advantages. You're faster and stronger, so we made speed and strength irrelevant. This isn't about who's the better warrior, it's about who's the better thinker. For a long moment, Grath simply stared at them. Then impossibly, the Warlord laughed. It was a harsh sound, but genuine. You are not prey, Grath said. I see that now. No, Minho agreed. We're not. They left Grath at the ravine and disappeared into the jungle. Behind them, they could hear the Warlord calling his scattered warriors, reorganizing for a continued hunt. But something had changed. Both sides knew it. The hunt was far from over, but the humans had proven their point. They were not victims. They were not helpless. They were dangerous in ways the Thorians had never imagined. As night fell on the second day, Daewon checked the galactic broadcasts. The viewership had increased by billions. Every species was watching now. The commentary had shifted from amusement to shock to something approaching respect. 24 hours left, Minho said to his team as they made camp in a new location. We've shown them what humans can do. Tomorrow we show them what we can endure. His crew nodded. They were exhausted but unbroken. The third day would be the hardest. But humans had survived worse. The transport ship descended through thick clouds toward the surface of the hunting preserve. Minho sat in silence with his team, feeling the vibrations of atmospheric entry through the metal hull. No one spoke. They had said everything that needed to be said during the 12-hour preparation period. Through the viewport, Minho watched the jungle emerge below them. Dense green canopy stretched in every direction, broken only by occasional clearings and a network of rivers that reflected the pale sun. The planet was designated as Preserve 9 in Council records, maintained specifically for recreational hunting. Landing in 2 minutes, the pilot announced. The pilot was Thorian. He had laughed when loading the humans aboard, making comments about how tender they looked. Minho glanced at his crew. Jiho checked and rechecked the simple tools they had been given: a basic knife, fire-starting equipment, and water purification tablets. Nothing that could be considered a weapon under Thorian law. Yuna studied a crude map of the preserve on a small datapad. Taeyang flexed his hands, mentally preparing. Hana organized their minimal medical supplies. Daewon sat with his eyes closed, breathing slowly and steadily. The ship touched down in a clearing. The rear hatch opened with a hiss of hydraulics. "Out!" the Thorian pilot barked. "Your 72 hours begin when you reach the tree line." They filed out into humidity that hit like a physical weight. The air smelled of rot and growing things. Insect sounds filled the jungle around them. The temperature had to be at least 90 degrees. Minho led his team toward the trees. Behind them, he heard the transport lift off. They were alone now. 6 humans on an alien world, about to be hunted by creatures specifically evolved to kill. "Sound off," Minho ordered once they reached the shelter of the jungle canopy. Each crew member reported ready. Minho pulled out the map. According to the brief they received, the preserve covered roughly 50 square kilometers of dense jungle terrain. Rivers, cliffs, and predator animals made it dangerous even without the Thorian hunters. "They'll expect us to run," Jiho said. "To panic and scatter." "Then we don't do that," Minho replied. "We move with purpose." "Taeyang, can you work with this environment?" The engineer looked around at the jungle, then nodded. "Trees are similar to earth bamboo in structure. Vines are strong. I can make tools, maybe simple traps." "Do it." "Hana, check everyone for injuries or problems." "Daewon, I need you monitoring any electronic signals." They said no communications, but I bet they're broadcasting this. "Already on it, Captain," Daewon said, pulling out a small scanner they had smuggled past the equipment check. "I'm picking up multiple video drones. We're definitely being watched." "Good," Minho said. "Let them watch." They moved deeper into the jungle, following a stream that would help hide their tracks. Minho set a steady pace, not too fast, conserving energy. He had studied Earth's persistence hunters before this mission, learning from humanity's oldest survival techniques. Ancient humans had not been fast or strong, but they could walk forever. They could track prey for days without stopping. They could outlast anything on Earth through sheer endurance. That was the plan. Outlast the Thorians. Hours passed. The jungle grew darker as the sun moved lower in the sky. Strange birds called from the canopy. Something large moved through the undergrowth nearby, but it avoided them. "Captain," Yuna said quietly, "according to my readings, this world has lower gravity than Earth. About 85%. Minho processed that information. Lower gravity meant they could move faster, jump higher, carry more. The Thorians had evolved in this lighter gravity. For humans, it was an advantage. Everyone hear that? Minho said. "We're stronger here than they expect." As darkness fell, they made camp in a dense thicket beside the stream. Taeyang had crafted several simple spears from straight branches, sharpening the points with his knife. He had also gathered vines and begun constructing something that looked like a snare. "No fire," Minho ordered. "We eat cold rations and rest in shifts. Jiho and I take first watch." The night came alive with sounds. Insects screamed. Things splashed in the water. Somewhere distant, something roared. But nothing approached their camp. At dawn, they moved again. Daewon reported that his scanner had detected movement roughly 3 kilometers behind them. The Thorians had entered the preserve. 20 hunters, Minho reminded his team. They'll likely split into groups. Standard pack tactics. They'll try to surround us or drive us into a trap. So we give them what they expect, Jiho said, understanding. We leave clear signs. Make them think we're panicking. They spent the morning creating false trails. At various points, they split up briefly, leaving footprints in different directions before reuniting. They dropped pieces of torn fabric on branches. They disturbed the undergrowth in ways that looked careless, but their true path followed a careful route that Yuna had planned using the terrain map. They moved through streams to hide their scent. They walked on rocks where possible to avoid tracks. They used vines to travel through trees, leaving no ground trail at all in some sections. By midday, Daywin's scanner showed Thorian hunting parties spreading out in a search pattern. One group was following their false trail east. Another was searching the river systems, but 3 Thorians were tracking their actual path. They're good, Minho admitted. Better than I hoped. They've been doing this for thousands of years, Yuna said. Hunting is their culture. Then we teach them about human culture, Jiho replied. They chose their ground carefully. A narrow ravine with steep sides, thick vegetation, and limited sightlines. Taeyang set his snares along the likely approach paths. Jiho positioned sharpened stakes in the undergrowth, angled upward. Hana prepared their medical kit for quick access. Then they waited. The Thorians arrived an hour later. Minho watched through the dense foliage as 3 massive figures moved into the ravine. They moved confidently, weapons held ready. These were not creatures that feared prey. The first Thorian stepped directly into Taeyang's snare. The vine snapped tight around his ankle and yanked him off balance. He fell hard, and the sharpened stakes found their mark. The Thorian roared in pain and fury. His companions immediately went on alert, but Jiho was already moving. The security officer had spent 10 years in Earth Special Forces before joining the crew. He knew exactly how to fight larger opponents. Jiho came from above, dropping from a tree branch onto the second Thorian's back. His knife found the gap between armor plates at the creature's neck. It was not a killing blow, but the Thorian went down screaming. The third Thorian spun toward Minho, raising his energy weapon. But Minho had expected that. He threw a fist-sized rock with all his strength, using the precise throwing technique that humanity had perfected over millions of years. The rock hit the Thorian's weapon hand with a crack of breaking bone. Then the entire human team converged. 6 against 1. They did not fight with honor or mercy. They fought like humans had always fought when facing stronger opponents. With tools. With tactics. With absolute ruthlessness. The Thorian went down under the coordinated assault. In less than 3 minutes, 3 Thorian hunters were disabled. Not dead, but unable to continue the hunt. Minho checked each one, making sure they were breathing. Take their equipment, he ordered. Weapons, communicators, anything useful. Daywin picked up a Thorian communicator and listened. His eyes widened. Captain, they're broadcasting this to the entire galaxy. Every species with galactic network access is watching. Good, Minho said again. He looked directly at one of the hovering camera drones. Let them see what happens when you hunt humans. They left the disabled Thorians and moved deeper into the jungle. Behind them, they could hear the roars of other hunting parties converging on the location. The Thorians had found their wounded. Now they knew humans were not running, they were fighting back. That night, as they rested in a new hidden camp, Yuna checked the galactic news feeds on the captured Thorian equipment. The broadcasts were exploding with commentary. Some species were shocked. Others were excited. Many were frightened. They're calling us the prey that hunts, Yuna said softly. Minho looked up at the alien stars visible through gaps in the canopy. Somewhere up there, billions of beings were watching, judging, deciding what humanity really was. We have 48 hours left, he said. Let's show them exactly what Earth's apex predator looks like. His crew smiled in the darkness. They were tired, dirty, and surrounded by enemies, but they were not afraid. They were hunters, just like their ancestors had always been. The message arrived on every human communication network at exactly the same time. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge and watched the holographic display flicker to life. The symbol of the Galactic Council filled the screen, followed by what looked like an official document. Captain, you need to see this, Dr. Yuna said from her station. Her voice carried a note of concern that made Minho's stomach tighten. The document was titled Universal Species, Classification Index, Updated Registry. Minho scrolled through pages of alien species names, each with a number beside it. Class 1 species were marked in red, Class 2 in orange. The colors went down through yellow, green, and blue until reaching purple at Class 7. Where are humans? Minho asked. Yuna pointed at the screen. There it was. Humanity. Class 7. Purple. At the very bottom of the list. The classification reason made Minho's jaw clench. Limited physical capabilities. No natural weapons. Minimal defensive features. Slow ground speed. Weak bite force. Classification prey species. Prey species. Chiho's voice came from behind them. The security officer moved closer to read the screen. They think we're prey? Minho said nothing. He kept reading. The document explained that Class 1 species were apex predators. The Thorians held this position described as perfect hunters with superior strength, natural armor, and predatory instincts. Class 7 species were prey animals, species that existed as food sources or beings that needed protection from stronger species. This has to be a mistake, Yuna said quietly. But it was not a mistake. Over the next few hours, communications from Earth Command confirmed it. The Galactic Council had made its decision based on human biology. They looked at human teeth and saw flat molars instead of fangs. They looked at human hands and saw no claws. They looked at human skin and saw no scales or armor. They measured human running speed against creatures that could sprint at 70 miles per hour. They decided humans were weak. The galactic networks proved even worse. Minho's communication officer, Daewon, intercepted public broadcasts from across known space. Alien species talked about humans like they were pets or livestock. Some made jokes. Others discussed whether human territories would make good farming zones once the Thorians decided to expand. The Thorians. Everything came back to them. Minho pulled up their file on the main screen. The Thorians stood 9 feet tall with thick armored skin that could stop most conventional weapons. They had claws that could tear through metal. Their jaws could crush bone. They ruled over 17 different star systems and controlled the largest military fleet in the galaxy. And now they were interested in humanity. Captain, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command, Daewon announced. Admiral Park's face appeared on screen. She looked tired. Captain Minho, you and your crew are ordered to proceed to Kepler 7 station immediately. The Galactic Council has summoned human representatives to a formal summit. What kind of summit? Minho asked. The kind where we either accept our classification or face complete isolation from galactic trade routes and diplomatic relations, Admiral Park said. Her voice was bitter. The Thorians are pushing for restrictions on human expansion. They claim prey species need protection from themselves. Minho felt anger building in his chest but kept his voice calm. When do we leave? Now, you have 6 days to reach Kepler 7. Choose 5 crew members to accompany you. Earth Command is sending additional instructions. Admiral Park's expression softened slightly. Minho, be careful. The Thorians are not known for mercy. If this goes wrong, I understand, Admiral. The transmission ended. Minho turned to face his crew. Yuna watched him with worried eyes. Chiho stood with arms crossed, his face hard. Daewon looked angry. Their engineer Taeyang had joined them on the bridge along with their medic Hana. I want all of you with me, Minho said. If we're going to represent humanity, I want people I trust. What do you think they'll do? Hana asked. I don't know, Minho admitted. But the Thorians didn't become apex predators by playing fair. The journey to Kepler 7 took exactly 6 days. During that time, Minho and his crew studied everything they could find about Thorian culture, their laws, and their hunting traditions. What they learned did not comfort them. Thorians believed in something called the natural order. Predators ruled. Prey obeyed. Any species classified as prey had limited rights under Galactic Council law. They could be hunted for sport with proper permits. Their territories could be seized if a predator species claimed need for expansion. Their trade agreements could be overruled. This is insane, Chiho muttered as he read through the legal documents. They're treating sapient beings like animals. To them, we are animals, Yuna said softly. Their entire civilization is built on predator supremacy. They can't imagine that a prey species could be intelligent or dangerous. Minho stood at the window of his quarters, staring out at the stars rushing past. He thought about Earth, about humanity's history, About the long climb from caves to starships. Humans had no claws, but they made knives. Humans had no armor, but they made shields. Humans were not fast, but they never stopped. Humans were not strong, but they worked together. Earth had not been kind to humanity. Ice ages tried to freeze them. Predators tried to eat them. Diseases tried to kill them. Humans survived it all, not by being the biggest or fastest or strongest, but by being the smartest, by being the most stubborn, by refusing to give up. But how could he explain that to aliens who only understood fang and claw? Kepler 7 station appeared on their sensors on the morning of the 6th day. The massive structure hung in space like a silver wheel, with ships from dozens of species docked at various ports. Minho guided the horizon's edge into their assigned docking bay. "Remember," he told his crew as they prepared to disembark, "we represent all of humanity right now. Stay calm, stay professional. Let them underestimate us." They walked through the station's corridors and drew stares from every species they passed. Some looked curious. Others looked amused. A few looked hungry. The council chamber was enormous, with seating areas arranged in a circle around a central platform. Representatives from different species filled the room. Minho spotted the Thorian delegation immediately. They were impossible to miss. Warlord Grath sat in a throne-like chair surrounded by his warriors. He was the largest Thorian Minho had ever seen, with scars crossing his armored face. When Grath saw the human delegation, his lips pulled back to reveal rows of sharp teeth. It was not a smile. The council session began with formal introductions. Various species spoke about trade agreements and territorial disputes. Then the speaker called for the human delegation to approach the platform. Minho walked forward with his crew behind him. He felt hundreds of eyes watching. "Humanity has requested a review of their species classification," the speaker announced. "Warlord Grath of the Thorian Empire wishes to address this matter." Grath rose from his seat and walked to the platform. Each step made the floor vibrate. He looked down at Minho with eyes that reflected millions of years of predatory evolution. "I have reviewed humanity's petition," Grath said. His voice rumbled like thunder. "I find it amusing. Prey that thinks it deserves respect. Prey that believes it can stand equal to predators." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some aliens laughed. Minho kept his face neutral. "The classification stands," Grath continued. "However, I am not without mercy. I will give humanity a chance to prove itself." He smiled, showing all his teeth. "A traditional proving. A hunt." The chamber fell silent. 20 of my finest warriors will pursue 6 human representatives through a wilderness preserve. If any human survives for 72 hours, we will reconsider your classification." Minho's heart pounded, but his voice remained steady. "And if we refuse?" Grath's smile widened. "Then humanity accepts its place as prey. Your colonies will be restricted. Your ships will require escorts. Your people will live under our protection." He spoke the last word like it was a joke. "Choose now." Minho looked back at his crew. Yuna's face was pale but determined. Jiho stood ready. The others waited for his decision. They had no choice. "They never had a choice, we accept," Minho said.